Time now to get the latest trends in dive retailing, travel, and training with Level Up, the podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Now, here's your host, Scuba Radio's Greg the Dive Master.
And welcome to this special holiday edition of Level Up, the official podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. I am Greg the Dive Master from Scuba Radio. You can check out Scuba Radio every Saturday, 3 to 5 Eastern Time. We have a lot to cover in this December edition of the Level Up podcast. And it is going to start off kind of festive today, is it not, Willie Klein? What do you say?
I think so. Welcome, everybody. I got to say, you're taking a look right now at our cover. This is our beautiful cover we have for November, and we have to do a quick happy birthday. So everybody together, let's wish Margot Payton happy birthday.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, happy birthday, Margot.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you, etc. So funny story is her husband, Tom, reached out to us secretly a month ago and said, Margot's birthday's coming up. I said, I love this photo they had posted on Facebook someplace. I said, would you like to do a surprise birthday present for her and not tell her? So she had no idea she was going to be on the cover of our magazine. So anyhow, that's a kind of a fun way to kick things off.
How about that? Well, welcome, Margot. Good to see you. We go way back, by the way, and we'll get to her a little bit later on. Maybe we'll save that. But when we started Scuba Radio, 29 years ago, Margot was right there with me, and we were there at one of the first kids' sea camps. So we go way back. I look forward to catching up with her for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
But we got to kick off this official holiday edition of the big show with the big guy.
Well,
don't we, Willie?
Let's first go to Britton for just a minute for his little kind of advertising update. Britton's our ad sales manager, has been worked really hard this year, and he's got a couple just quick comments, and then we'll go into Santa.
Yeah.
Land.
Yes, I'll keep it super duper brief. Hi, everyone. It's so great to see you again, and the few new faces, it's great to see you as well. I just super quickly want to say thank you to everyone who's been advertising with us. It's been great to have you along with the ride. Thank you to everyone at DEMA. The show was fantastic. It was great to be there, see you, shake your hand, just catch up, have a great conversation. So thank you again to all of you who make this possible.
Yeah.
That's it from me, guys.
Yeah. Great
Thank
show,
you.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
DEMA was awesome.
It was up at
Definitely.
22% in attendees on day one compared to day one last year.
Yeah.
And up like 3% in number of booths sold. So, I mean, those are all positive things. I had one manufacturer tell me they signed up 50 new dealers in 4 days.
Wow.
And he said, 4 days, 50 dealers we have. And another resort told me that they booked $200,000 in travel on day one.
What a blessing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So
Well,
we have
there's a lot
great
to
stories like
celebrate.
that.
There's no doubt. Looks
Sure
like
is.
we're heading into a pretty great 2026 if you just take the vibe that was
Yes.
there at the DEMA show. Here, I had a good
I would
time.
agree.
So I guess we've been nicer than naughty. I don't know. We'll have to ask Santa.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, or we skated by, as we sometimes do in the dive industry. So first up, we got Dan Orr, and he is dressed for the occasion. So I don't know if it's Dan Orr or it's Saint Nick, but regardless, he has an article in Scuba Diving Industry Magazine, page 6. An incident in scuba diving is an accident that didn't happen. So Santa, what's the difference between an incident and an accident?
Well, generally speaking, accidents are something that involves either an injury or have a fatality, and an incident is something that was generally a near miss. And incidents are extremely important. You don't really talk about them very often. You don't really see a lot of information about them very often. But Divers Alert Network, for example, has an incident reporting program where they're collecting information on anything that happens that doesn't necessarily involve getting into that cascade that could result in an injury or fatality. And the reason those things are so important is because they can show us trends. So, for example, years ago, before Dan started doing that, and a lot of us, myself included, would read all the information we could about diving accidents and try to learn from those to determine what happened that caused somebody to go from a normal, enjoyable dive into something that was an injury or fatality. For example, a number of years ago, I heard about a lot of people who were having problems with water in their mask. So what I did, I went back to my diving program, and we had every student do every single exercise without a mask on. So the mask was there for them to see, but if they didn't have the mask on, they could still do everything effectively. And a friend of mine a number of years ago was doing a deep dive in the Great Lakes, and he had a regulator freeze up, automatic free flow of his second stage, but he had been told by somebody that you couldn't breathe through a free flowing regulator. So he tried to do an emergency ascent from over 100 feet and unfortunately didn't make it. So after hearing that and hearing of a couple of other incidents and people diving in cold water, we actually involved a program or a series of exercises in our diving program where people had to swim laps with a free-flowing regulator to let them understand that you could breathe through a free-flowing regulator. So these incidents are really very, very important for us to learn from them. And hopefully from that, we'll be able to either modify our techniques or our training programs or develop new training programs or techniques so that people won't have problems that would actually result in a injury or fatality.
Yes, and if that happens, you end up on Santa's list, and it's not the good one.
And yeah, you certainly would be on the naughty list.
Well,
Yes.
I think what I love so much about this series, Dan, is that we're all professionals. Most of us are all dive instructors or above, but so many things can still cause a problem. And I love the fact that the last advice you say is learn from each dive. And that is so true. Everybody should always take a minute and reflect on what did great, what was the problem or whatever. And even Britt and I, we were down in Cayman diving at Sunset House and had this super, super strong current that was a cross current. And I mean, it was brutal even for me. And we had decent fins and everything on. And, so it's that not that you can learn anything other than the fact we had to stay low, which maybe we were a little deeper than we should have been, things like that. But, it's amazing. Anybody can get into trouble with a simple incident. I love the story.
And you're right. Every single dive should be a learning experience to make sure that every dive after that is better.
There you go.
Exactly. I love it.
All right, good stuff. Dan Orr / Santa. We thank him. Go say hi to Rudolph for us. Up
Yeah.
next is the birthday girl herself, Margot Payton, the lady behind the Kids Sea Camp. By the way, look that up. It's legendary. It's great stuff, and I have such great memories. It almost when I think about that, I think of the holidays. Because back in the day when I had the little ones, they're all grown up and they've disowned me for years now. But regardless, we had some great memories back in the day, and it's great to see Margot on her birthday. Now, she's written an article in Scuba Diving Industry Magazine, page 34, training your staff to safely and effectively teach kids to dive. Of course. So what's the difference between teaching kids and adults? What do you think, Margot?
Thank you all for having me today. I really appreciate being here. Thank you, Willie. Thank you for all your support and your birthday wishes.
Thank you.
There's a big difference between teaching kids and teaching adults. And this is something that I spend a great deal of my passion and my time on, not only with educating parents about the differences and good questions to ask, but also teaching dive shops and resorts, because many of the instructors in dive shops follow their agency standards. And I really feel that some of those standards need to be changed. They need to be more conservative. For me personally, and these are just, I am a PADI instructor, but my views are my views from my 25 years of experience with 8,100 certified youths. And our kids need to dive. They need to be introduced to the diving industry. They're wonderful voices for the future and for the ocean. They have so much fun. I mean, Greg, your kids were really young when you started them in the underwater world. And my own daughter, Jen, was 4 and Robbie was 6 when I first started Kids Sea Camp. So I've kind of established myself as the bunny slope of the diving industry. But these are babies. They're our pride and joy. They're our future. And I think if dive shops and dive shop managers and instructors could seriously think about every single child that they take diving or start teaching as their own, if you could carry that perspective with all children, you would really have a different perspective out there. I think, unfortunately, there's been quite a few diver deaths in the dive industry regarding children. I personally feel 95% of them could have been avoided with a little bit more attention, a little more nurturing, and a different training. And it's unfortunate because instructors out there. There are really good instructors out there. There are some instructors out there that are platinum instructors, and they've had hundreds or even thousands of certifications, but you put them with a child and it's like a cat that fell in a swimming pool. And I think that it's really important for instructors to have experience with kids, to have classes where they shadow other instructors that have experience with kids. And my number one, too, is I've got two hands. I don't take any more than two kids. I've got one kid for each hand. And if I'm dealing with special needs kids, which is a very big passion of mine and a special joy, it's a one-on-one. And I just feel that if the industry could adopt that, I know what the guidelines are. They're guidelines. They're not mandates in the sense that it has to be one instructor for 8 people or 4 people. For example, just with the Patty SEAL team, do you know on the swim lesson day, on the swim skill day, you can have one instructor in a pool with 16 kids. Like, to me, you can't take 5 to the bathroom, so common sense has to come
Wait. You take them out of the pool to go to the bathroom in that case?
Yeah, you have to do that.
I'm not cut out for this. I'm just
You
saying.
have to do that.
Read my article, everyone.
Yeah, you
It's
just wanna
coming up.
make it
Yeah.
fun. You want to make it fun and enlightening, and you want to make it safe, and that's what we try to do. And
Yeah.
there's a big difference. There's a big difference, Greg.
Yes. Well, you do a great job. I mean,
Yeah,
Margot has really
and
done an
I
amazing
love
job
this
with that.
series. She's writing 9-part series. I think we're just into our second or third part of the 9 series, and it's all about training, which has to do with our very next guest. It's about training multi-generational families, and I love the fact that Jeff. I'm going to jump ahead for 2 seconds and say I love the fact in your article you call out that building these generational experiences with your customers on some of these really exotic trips can really make a difference, and that's exactly what you're doing, Margot, with your Kids Sea Camp by getting the grandparents involved. There's 2 points I want to make to your article on page 34 that are so salient. Not all instructors are suited for kids. That is such an important part. As a dive shop owner, you should always keep that in mind. Not everybody's suited to work with kids. Second thing, as you said, as a mom, I can tell even with a regulator in their mouth and a mask on if a child is smiling, happy, sad, or frightened. Train your staff to read those underwater cues through their eyes and body language. Never push beyond the readiness. Kids get cold, tired, and hungry faster. Meditate breaks on. Anyhow, it's even bolded because I felt it was such an important line. Train your staff to read the underwater cues through the eyes and body language. And you're right, as an instructor that's taught a lot of families in the past, you always can go under the mandate. You can always go under the standards. We all know that, and there's just no excuse for someone to not do that, in my opinion. But
And it's important too for an instructor to feel empowered to say, I need less students or I need help.
and
Right.
it's hard because it's a profit motive for the shop too, because time is money and people are money, cost money. So, but those are all the pushes. So thank you for the article. Thank you. Keep them up. I think you're changing the world with what you're doing, and I'm glad that we can be a tiny part of helping the rest of the industry know about it in more detail.
Yes. Good stuff. Well, Dr. Jeff Bozanek is up next then. So let's talk to him. Page 30, Antarctica, Beyond Tourism, the scientific expedition for your advanced clients. Tell us about your citizen science trip and how, as a retailer, you can get involved, Jeff.
Last month, I talked about co-marketing travel and gave a couple of ideas. And the idea is that small shops or smaller operations can't fill a trip with their own customers. And so you work with others to be able to make yourself successful, not just your shop, but the other people putting on the trip. This is one example of that. In addition to putting on a trip, it's really beneficial if your clients have something that they are looking forward to doing. And in this particular expedition, we have added a component of citizen science with the trip so that everybody on the trip can, if they wish to, be involved in something than just tourism or just diving. And in this particular case, I happen to be sitting at the LA County Natural History Museum right now, which is the institution under which this trip is being run scientifically. We will allow divers to help us do collection and make observations underwater. The collected material that we bring back to the boat, everybody, regardless of whether they're divers or not, will have the opportunity, if they wish to get involved, to actually be involved in the science of what it's like to do field work at a remote location. And they'll be taking the animals that we collect and sorting them, doing photography of the animals, labeling them, learning how to preserve them properly, relaxing them and different types of methodologies that we use to relax the animals before we preserve them, and then labeling them so that everything can come back here to the museum. And so this is a chance for them to learn. It's a chance for them to do something productive, and it's a chance for them to actually contribute to real science that's going on in a location that has never been examined before. And on this trip, we're stopping at a place called Shag Rocks. And Shag Rocks are an isolated group of islets 150 miles from the nearest land, which happens to be South Georgia Island, where Ernest Shackleton started and ended his ill-fated 1914 expedition to try to cross the continent of Antarctica. And because of the isolated nature of these islands, we expect to find new species. And so the people going on this trip will have the opportunity to participate and contribute to that as actual members of the group.
So they're going to have we're going to find a bosanic penguin, right?
Well, I don't expect to find a bosanic penguin, but we might find a bosanic snail.
Okay.
Why not? You find it, you name it. That's how it works, isn't it?
Well, actually, the taxonomists get to name it, but I've got 4 animals that are named after me now. So we're looking for new people to get animals named.
That's great. How many times have you been to Antarctica, Jeff?
About a dozen, give or take.
Really?
Dan goes to Antarctica. You go in the blue-green group, right? And how many times have you been there?
Going in January, it'll be my 4th trip.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. This is a part of the world that's been so off limits for us for so many years. So it's really quite amazing that there's an opportunity now to explore these poles like this. So
well, and the nice thing about this trip is that it's an Explorers Club flag expedition because of the unique nature of the research that we're going to be doing. And anybody that comes along will have the opportunity not only to help with the science, but also to apply for membership to the Explorers Club, which is probably the world's preeminent group of explorers on the entire planet.
Absolutely.
So
that's really amazing. And I got to say, Jeff, during we had a writers roundtable 2 of the 4 days of DEMA where we had about a dozen of you writers out there that came and answered kind of questions from the crowd. And Jeff, on the last day, offered $1,000 discount on your trip to a winner. And I thought that was a really kind and gracious thing. So I just want to say thank you publicly for doing that. That was really nice. I hope the person took you up on that offer.
They're still talking.
Yeah, it's great.
I will say for the dive shop owners out there, if you send clients on this trip, you've got the opportunity not only to send your clients to something that's really new and exciting, but you also make a profit on it too, because I share the profits on that with the people that send me clients.
That's great. Thanks, Jeff. Great article. Love it. Can't wait to hear about report from it. So speaking of dive shops, and I'm gonna let you do the intro here, Greg, but this next couple that's been writing this great series for us is truly, really, if you're a dive retailer out there and you're trying to get a group travel program going, or you're just trying to energize it, listen to what David and Lily have to say. I talked to a dive shop today, Mountain Bay Scuba in Green Bay, Wisconsin. They have the dive shop in a strip mall. Okay. I happen to know the owner because we worked together years ago at Oshkosh when the Bahamas did the pool at Oshkosh that Dave Riedenbach ended up working for at DEMA. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, can we he's going to do one of our podcasts. And I said, well, he says, well, what's your schedule? He says, so I'm kind of busy right now. And I said, well, what? He says, 2 weeks in Philippines this year, 3 weeks in Roatan next year, 2 weeks in Australia. I mean, these are groups back to back. This little dive shop in Green Bay, Wisconsin has probably done 20 trips this year. It's unbelievable. And I mean, he's not even available till like late January because he's got trips to Socorro Islands coming up. I mean, it's really amazing how, as a retailer, if you dig into this travel thing, you can make some money with it. Mm-hmm. So I'll let you intro our next writers.
Well, yeah, especially if you're in Wisconsin during the winter months.
Right.
Just saying, that might help a little. But yeah, David and Lily are the gang when it comes to this. Page 20 of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Dive travel planning checklist for group travel. So tell us what dive shops need to know and when planning for a group trip is the way to go there. You want to take it off, Lily, or who's leading? What do you think?
It'll be me.
Okay.
Well, so the first part of planning a dive trip is making sure that you're working with a qualified travel agent that has firsthand knowledge and of the destination and or access to someone in the office that does have that experience. You just can't rely on marketing materials from that to get a feel for the place. Um, so what you need is a resource that's an expert in all the ins and outs of the place. What's it like to get there? How do you get settled in? What are the dive boats like? Because you're going to be the one answering all the questions.
Yes, if you go into, if you go into the trip and things go awry, you also want to have a travel agency that has a 24/7, 365 emergency hotline that you can call to help take care of problems that may occur. If they only have limited amount of access, especially because of timelines and things of that nature, then you may have to be the person that takes care of all the things yourself. So, and as you know, problems always seem to occur at the worst possible time.
So before trying to set up a trip with your customers, you need to also survey them and find out where they want to go, not just where you want to be going. Also, you need to get a feel for the sort of travel budget that they're willing to spend on a dive trip. So since many of them probably have limited vacation time, how many days are they willing to dedicate to a trip? If your planned trip doesn't fit the parameters, then you may have a limited number of people going, whereas a trip that meets the budget and the schedule will probably fill up fast.
Yeah, you have to determine what destinations best fit your style of the diving that your customers are seeking. Challenging technical dives may not interest recreational divers that are only looking for easy reef dives with lots of marine life. But on the other hand, if your dive center specializes in technical diving, then those easy reefs dives aren't going to be of much interest to the people that want to go on the trip. Another factor, too, is determining how many non-divers, family members that will be on the trip, and are there any activities for them to do at this destination?
Another important thing is when's the best time of year to go to your destination? You don't want to. So, for example, when is the rainy season? When is the potential hurricane cyclone season? The trip packages usually cost less during the low season periods, and you might get lucky having good weather, or you might find that your clients are going to be spending their time in the room. So speaking of the indoors, how are the accommodations? Look into the accommodations. What are the customer expectations? And what are the food choices like? Is there meal plans? Or are you covering breakfast, lunch, or dinner? And what are the facilities like around the area?
Yeah. The article lists a whole lot of detailed questions that you have to ask, whether, either to your travel agents or to the resort or live aboard contact that you're dealing with. These questions, similar ones are like, what forms do you need to fill out? What do you need to pack for the destination? Do they accept credit cards, or do you need to bring local currency? Go to the bank and order that in advance. Are there any hidden costs not included in the trip price, which a lot of times marine park fees and things like that? What are the electrical voltage and plug configuration that you need to use if you're like a photographer or something, need to recharge batteries? Is the area safe for shopping even, or touring the area? So there's a lot of considerations that are highlighted in the article, and I recommend that you do check it out before planning your next trip.
We would definitely do that. Yeah.
I got to say that of your things that you had under good to know items on page 22, I was impressed with, can you suggest a backup plan for an itinerary in case of weather disruptions? I mean, that are canceled dives. That happens all the time. Do they have a secondary plan? And this, although it sounds kind of silly, but what clothing is suggested and acceptable for the location? Because people have different customs in different parts of the world. And then I thought that the last thing that what that was really interesting, you said, does the Wi-Fi system cover the whole resort or only one area? Because I have been on that trip, and it's only in the lobby, and I'm sitting there in the lobby at 2 a.m. trying to work because I can't use work in my room. So I think it's really well done. Great article, both of you. Keep them coming.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stuff. Well, up next, we got Gil Zeimer, and he gets the award, by the way, for best title for an article in Scuba Diving Industry Magazine.
Yep. So
yes.
far.
Page 27, to pee or not to pee, you're in good company. I gave it a little extra there. Sorry, Gil.
Okay.
But
Thanks,
yeah,
thanks.
is urinating in your wetsuit really the number one issue in the dive industry right now?
Well, I'd say it's probably better to be number one than number two in this situation.
Hey,
But
That's pretty good.
should have
this
told me. I would have had
story-
the rim shot ready. Seriously.
Right.
Boom.
Okay.
Right. The story came about because I got certified in '85, and I had never peed in my wetsuit until this year when I was in Palau.
Lies.
And the dive boats come at 8:30 in the morning. You don't get back till 2:30 in the afternoon. They're like 5-6 hour trips, and there's no bathrooms. And every time we had to pee, and there were 6 on each of the 2 boats, you'd raise your hand and say, "I have to check the current," and they would stop the boat, and anyone who had to pee would climb down the ladder, peel off the wetsuit, and go. But that wasn't enough for me because I was having a urinary problem because of Sudafed, which made me have to pee like every hour to 2 hours for 12 days. It was very irritating in a lot of ways. So I had to pee for my first time in my wetsuit on this trip. And then I started talking to my fellow divers, and most people have done it. And in the article, I say there are 2 types of divers: those who do it and those who lie about not doing it. But I, like my AI article last year, I didn't want to just write my experiences. I wanted to poll the experts. So I reached out to Divers Alert Network. I reached out to O'Neill Wetsuits. They both gave some good advice. And then I reached out to a lot of trusted fellow writers for this magazine, like Dan Orr, Jeff Centropino, who used to own a dive shop in Connecticut, my friend Carlos Lander, who mentioned you mentioned asparagus, the smell of asparagus.
And all of them said no. They don't pee in their wetsuits.
Most said yes. Most said yes.
What?
Alex Brisky said yes. Most people have done it. And then some people in my dive club, Ken Carter, who started Blue Friday, said, "No, I wear a dry suit." But
That's right after Yellow Thursday, by the way.
Right, everyone has done it, and Terry Cummins also. But so I polled all these people, and I said yes or no, and they all gave examples of why. But Dan, especially, not Dan Orr, but Dan Alert Diver, gave some information that was about the science of it and the dangers of peeing in your wetsuit, and because of organisms and infections you could have. So there's a lot of good information in the article, besides a little humor about the process of to pee or not to pee.
Okay, I don't know what to say at this point.
Well, I do have something I do have to add. Gil is coming out with this book very shortly, and I'm going to put it up on the screen so everybody can see this cover. Congratulations, Gil. He has a new book that's going to come out in just a few weeks, and he's going to join the ranks of Dan Orr with his books. And he has a new children's coloring book out, by the way. And Alex Brilsky, which you'll hear from a little later on, has a book as well. So I'm really pleased to have you join that ranks of one of the writers here in our magazine.
Yeah, and I thank Willie again for his kind words in the forward, and Dan Orr and Gretchen and Carlos and Terry and a number of our writers, including Catherine Garcia, have written testimonials about the book from manuscripts I've sent them in advance. So I thank you all for that. The book should be ready next week on Best Publishing, but I'll let everyone know. Thank you.
It's a nice lighthearted romp through the industry.
Yeah,
so
it's a great holiday gift. If your stocking stuffer is a fin, it's a great holiday.
Yes. So I want to tee up the next person. I'll let you introduce him, Greg. But we were at DEMA just a few weeks ago, and Barry, I had received an email from, I don't remember who referred you to me. I think maybe it was Dan Orr. I can't remember. Maybe someone said, "You got to talk to this guy, Barry Lipsky with the Long Island Divers Association." I reached out to Dan. I said, "Can you tell me?" He says, "Oh, yeah, he's a great guy. Got some great information." And so he popped by and saw me at the DEMA show. And he hands me this brochure that he's doing a seminar on. It's how to survive essentially a liveaboard fire. So you're talking about the most relevant issue you could possibly have in our industry globally right now. And then they come to find out he's a fireman, and he actually has a whole system, and they even got a slate for checklists. So I said, "You got to write this, Barry. You got to tell the industry. You got to tell retailers out there. Every dive shop that's doing a liveaboard trip needs this information." And I'm going to even challenge him further. I'm going to ask him for some more follow-up on this, because I'd like to be able to put a PDF on our website that we can directly link this article so people can print out these guides or order them for you and from you in some way, because Barry, it's good stuff. So I'll let you go ahead and bring in the Barry here.
Well, Barry Lipsky, page 17, Vessel Incident Survival. Firefighting or firefighter principles for every liveaboard diver you should know. So first, thanks for your service there, Barry. Good stuff. So what can you tell our retailers and pros out there that can help them in the event of a fire or an emergency on a liveaboard? What do you think?
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me this afternoon for this esteemed group. I've, first time being with all of you, but I'm talking right now from Long Island, New York. And that's where I've always lived. And that's where I've always done most of my diving. Long Island Divers Association is a nonprofit group. And what we do is we educate divers as part of our mission statement. And the rest of it has to do with securing divers' rights and securing dive sites. So everything we do is we're volunteers. And we try to come up with things that are in the best interest of divers all the time. And about a year ago, I was having a conversation with a fellow that many, many people know, and that's Captain Steve Belinda. He was the creator and the one that ran the Wahoo. A lot of their trips were, all off the South Shore of Long Island. And, Steve is very, very experienced. And he was rumbling, and we were talking about all the incidents that we've become aware of that are in certain parts of the world with vessels that are liveaboard vessels that are overnight in the middle of the ocean that had incidents similar to fires running aground or inversions, and diving tourists, which we really all are when we go on liveaboards, were losing their lives because they had no idea what to do in that type of situation. We spoke about it quite a bit, and Steve and I put together some notes, and I eventually interviewed some very, very prominent experts in the United States Navy, the United States Coast Guard, Merchant Marine, the fellow that I work for, Butch Hendrick from Lifeguard Systems. And I made sure that I got a lot of factual information and spoke to every one of them about what their procedures are in case of incidents. But I had to relate it to recreational diving. So we compiled all this information, and now we said, all right, now what are we going to do with this? So I started off at some of the local dive clubs and dive stores and doing a presentation. Beneath the Sea asked me to do it. Once I did it at Beneath the Sea, people that attended realized this is very, very relevant. It's very, very educational. It's very important. And at the same time, we emphasize this clearly, that Long Island Divers Association is promoting liveaboard diving, but to be aware of the things that could happen so that you as an individual can prepare for anything that could happen at the best of the different liveaboard charters. And of course, there are charters that you'd be more at risk, which I bring up during the presentation, how to try to identify those and how to try to avoid them. But at the same time, anything can happen to the best of vessels. So it starts off with what you do before you even leave your house, how you prepare, what you do the very moment you get on the vessel, what you do and expect from the crew, from the vessel, what you need to do and look for while you're on the vessel, and then what you would do in case of an incident and how you would go through those procedures. I am a firefighter. I've been taught how to go through buildings that I've never been to before that are in their worst situation, which means they're on fire. They're filled with smoke. Firefighters can get in there and go to where they want to go and come back to the same place. And how do they do that? We don't have lights that we use, or if we do, they're like public safety diving in the mud. The light's not going to do you any good. So you have to have the knowledge and the forthright to be able to go through a vessel that may be in a situation that's either smoke-filled, inverted, and get yourself out of there. And after this presentation, I've been getting a lot of feedback from divers, very, very experienced divers even, that have said they've practiced this on liveaboard vessels they've gone to when they first get there. and they're amazed that, I mean, some of these people have been diving for 40, 50 years. They say, I never thought about doing these things, and I feel so much better about doing it. And these are things that we just put together and came up with this presentation. You know, we're constantly tweaking it like anything else. And we feel that it's something that every diver should take. It's not something that is anything against liveaboards. I'm going to continue going on liveaboards. All my diving officers at Long Island Divers Association continue to go on liveaboards, but we're going there proactively and educated, and hopefully our audiences will gain that same knowledge so that they're in a better position in case something happens. And so far, it's been receptive very well. Beneath the Sea wants us back again. Deemer, it worked out very well. The only problem we're having, and I could definitely use your help, is how do we attract people to go there in the first place? Because the title is not bringing them in. What's bringing people into the room is either those that have been there before, or we're personally talking to them at the conference center, telling them what we're doing, and that's stirring their interest to attend the seminar. I guess that doesn't have an attractive name to it, which we're trying to work out. But we're going back to Beneath the Sea, and any place else that people want to invite us to, we could certainly consider going there and doing it.
So Barry gives some really great advice, and please read the article. Reach out to him. His email is QR'd and digitally linked as well. But I'm going to quote one paragraph, and I think this is the solid gold of this entire brief but very, very concise article. During daylight, open your hatch or door several times until the motion becomes automatic. Practice located in the dark with your eyes closed, hands sliding along the wall or ceiling, memorizing the obstacles around your sleeping area, furniture, door lips, ceiling beams. In a real emergency, visibility may be zero. Your hands must guide you when your eyes cannot. Visualize the route upright and sideways. I mean, that is just incredible. In fact, he even mentioned to me at the show that this advice would work for a cruise ship too. It doesn't matter. It's for any time you're in a closed environment. So thank you, Barry. Thank you for providing some really great stuff. I'm looking for some follow up on this, and we're planning to be at Beneath the Sea, so we'll help you get the word out there too.
Sure. Yep. Great. And yeah, it's cruise ships and even hotels. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing going. That occurs at a hotel.
That's great advice.
Yeah, good stuff indeed.
Yes.
All right. So up next, we're going to go to our fitness guru, Gretchen Ashton. Page 39, highlight the fitness features found in modern dive watches and computers. So tell us how some dive computers interpret fitness underwater there, Gretchen. What can you say?
Well, hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here talking about fitness again, especially around the holidays, right? Get your workout in now.
Yeah, right when we all need to be working out, right?
Yeah. So this is a really fun article to write because there's a huge fitness market out there, and my goal has always been to bridge fitness and diving. It's just a perfect match. And fitness folks are adventurous, and they're in shape. They're ready to go diving, and divers need to be in shape to be as safe as possible while they're diving. So with fitness wearables doubling, the use of fitness wearables has actually doubled over the last year. It was time to take a look at what are these fitness features in the dive computers, right? So as the article says, fitness wearables work the same way across the board. They all do basically 3 or 4 things. One, and this is the specific answer to your question, Greg. One, they're going to first and primarily measure your heart rate, and that's what a lot of folks pay attention to. 2, they also some of them will have algorithms that pay attention to that time between heartbeats, which often is a sign of, a place where you can sense maybe some kind of a medical condition. Body temperature is another thing that they measure. And then, when you think about a fitness wearable that tracks your steps, for example, they actually measure vibrations in your body. And then the end user adds some information to that. And the manufacturers add algorithms that kind of interpret all this data. And then they give you feedback on whatever you were doing at the time. So if you're in the water diving, you can go back to your computer at home, or you can go to your computer on the boat and you can take a look at your dive profile and you can see what your heart rate was while you were diving and while you were doing different activities while you were diving. So that's really excellent feedback. If your heart rate is through the roof, then there's a sign of some type of overexertion. On some of them, you can actually set an alarm that says, hey, you need to calm down a little bit. Or maybe that heart rate was high because of stress or panic.
Yeah, by the way, Gretchen, just for the record, asking for a friend, does your heart rate go up when you relieve yourself underwater in your wetsuit? For a friend, asking for a
So
friend.
your heart rate goes down the deeper you go, actually. There's studies that show that. So there are some variables when you try to apply fitness wearables underwater. But mostly it's about the feedback that you get from the data that the wearables can collect, and how that speaks to your individual fitness is how you apply it, whether you're diving or whether you're on dry land.
I saw what you did there. How it affects
sidestepped it. So
what happens when you're in the water?
Yeah, very good, very good. This show is really descending. You did point out in this article a really cool fact of the Garmin's new dive readiness tool they have on the Descent MK3i, which they talked to us a little bit about Demonis, that analyzes the diver's physical condition and actually takes that into account for your NDL, which is really quite interesting and very unique. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to see that continue with those computers that are going to get more information and help us be a little safer underwater. So thank you, Gretchen. Great article. And I heard Gil helped you out with this too, as I recall a little bit.
Actually, I wanted to thank Gil because he helped me organize a lot of information condensed down and organized. Thank you so much, Gil.
Yeah, and that was the friend I was asking for, just for the record.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Just to get me off the hot seat there. Okay, up next, we got Carlos from Venezuela, page 50, Nicaragua's Corn Islands, a crossroads of history, culture, and adventure. So where are the Corn Islands, and how the heck do you get there?
Exactly.
Hello there. Well, thank you for the invitation. These exotic and remote islands, they are several, which is the better one is Little Corn Island, and it is in Nicaragua. So it's a very difficult to get there because they are very remote. So, but you can go there from United States, mainly from any international airport. For example, you can take a flight to Miami to Nicaragua, and then from the international airport you can go to the coast and then get a ferry or a small plane and go to the Little Corn Island.
Carlos, for a second there, I just put up on the map, and now that I'm talking, it'll be large. That's where it's at. It's on the Pacific side of Nicaragua, so that should give you a little idea, because I had to look it up myself when I heard about this place.
Yeah.
So
known for their corn, Carlos, or is that just a dumb question?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about this island is that they are famous for being pirate islands, and I'm pretty sure that it has a rich history. And I'm pretty sure there should be a lot of stuff inside the water, on the water. I mean, archaeological.
Maybe some treasure even, you never know.
And the diving is amazing also. And the University of Nicaragua have a project there, so for coral restoration, because they are suffering for a lot of high temperature. And there is amazing. But the thing with all these remote and exotic places is to get in contact with the dive center you're going to. And for example, Las Palmeras Hotel Dive Center, which operate by an Italian instructor, Clara Lombardi, which manner is amazing, and they will plan a trip for you. And if you have a group of diver, she can plan everything for you. So you can in contact with her and make all the plans. Or you have the option to get an advice from a travel agency, which is always advisable in this remote destination. It's very unpredictable what could happen if the air flights cancel or you don't have ferry that day. So it's very unpredictable. It's always advisable, as I said before, go to the travel agency or talk directly with the manager from the dive center or the hotel. And going in group is also an advice. Take 4 or 5 person from your dive center and plan the dive that way.
I love the fact that there's these places that are still in our hemisphere that are just, I'd never heard of the Corn Islands till earlier this year. I was at a dive event. Brittany and I were diving with the Garmin S1 buoy, and the dive master that was leading us in the water, I asked her to write an article for us on something else. She says, well, I'm headed to the Corn Islands, but I'll be back after the, and I'm like, what? Where's the Corn? Well, she says, I'm from Roatan originally. So the reason I knew about it, she says, the diving's incredible there. She says, it's hard to get to. She says, it's unbelievable. So thank you. If you all might know that Carlos has covered some very, very exotic places and very hard to get to areas in this part of the world. And I love that series. So keep it up. Carlos is also one of our sales reps. He handles Latin America and South America and any Spanish speaking, German speaking, and Italian speaking parts of the world as well. So Carlos, thank you again for your help in that regard too.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Up next, we got Dr. Alex Broski with us. Page 12, Why the Scuba Industry Needs More Self-Generated Data.
It's a great article, too, by the way.
Is this an AI thing, Alex, or what do you mean by self-generated?
No. It's not AI. Am I coming through okay?
Yeah, we got you.
Feedback.
Yep.
Okay.
We got you.
Last month, I did an article reviewing another article that came out in an academic journal that pegged the size of the scuba industry. And given that it survived the rigor of peer review, that obviously is pretty accurate. And of course, it's nice to know those sorts of things. But to me, the take-home message from that article wasn't so much the data, but the fact that it identified how much we are not at the table when it comes to decisions being made about tourism destinations and policy. And so what I thought I would do in the second article is get into that. And the article does just that. What I try to do in the first part of the article, I identify the weaknesses of our default, which is to use data from other related industries, from National Sporting Association, the Sports and Fitness Industry Institute. And while that's great, given that's often the only thing we have, there are limitations and there are situations where it really skews or doesn't provide the full picture of what is happening in our very specific industry. And I think this is partly due to the fact that we've perceived ourselves as the forgotten stepchild of tourism and not recognizing that we are a very, very significant component of marine tourism globally, particularly the tropics. And so we should be much more listened to. We should have a much bigger stake in these discussions by governmental authorities, NGOs, policymakers, when it comes time to determine marine resource policy, establishment of MPAs, and other tourism policies in general. So the second half of the article actually delves into what kinds of data are necessary, and it's pretty thorough, ranging from business marketing, but also the kinds of things that are necessary in terms of policy. And my hope is, given that we have the chair of the DEMA Research Committee on our call, that this could be used as a guide to establish true, authentic data sets and procedures where these reports could be generated and sent to ideally a central clearinghouse, and really for the first time have extremely broad and very, very specific data about the diving industry, not water sports or adventure tourism or whatever it is, because I think it's really lacking. Otherwise, we're not going to be taken seriously because we can't accurately talk about what we do.
You know, it's almost like you and Tom Ingram are having, and myself have had a mind meld, because the research committee for the last several months has been working on a economic model that we're actually naming the Ingram economic model in honor of Tom retiring. But it's specifically for just the United States. But the purpose is exactly what you said. The diving industry is much bigger than we realize. It involves boating, it involves construction, it involves so many different aspects of our industry that we don't track. So we're a much larger industry than what we've ever portrayed, because it's not just consumer spending, it's the result of the consumer spending, which I think is what you're getting at as well. And what would be nice is to marry the two together, have something that works for the United States and then something that's more of a global study, and then maybe we can extrapolate between the two some really global numbers. But you're on the right track, and I do agree this article is fantastic, and I think that there could be some great synergies between doing something like this and what the research committee is working on right now.
Yeah, we're kind of a big deal.
Missing out.
And we should get credit for it.
Yeah.
Right now, there is huge interest in what's known as the blue economy. Tourism is a huge component of the blue economy, and we are a big component of that. So we're missing out not only on accuracy and directing our future, but we're missing out on marketing opportunities to expose diving to a far bigger audience around the world. So, time to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty awesome activity. We need to share it with the world, and they need to listen up. All right.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. That was a great article. I really enjoyed it. So thank you again. I really like this whole series you've been doing. And again, buy Alex's book. Alex, where can people get it at?
He's thinking.
Like most books in the world, Amazon.
There you go, of course.
And then, Dan, your book's available through Best Publishing, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Best Publishing.
You're muted, but yeah, same with the Gills. So next month we've got some really cool stuff coming up. We were at DEMA last month and had an opportunity to chat with Marco, the U.S. sales manager, mastery of Maris, and he claims that they have created the first major change in the regulator since Jacques Cousteau came out of the Mediterranean. And he said in 60 years, no one's come up with what they've come up with. It's a pneumatic process for controlling the airflow in the second stage instead of springs and mechanical, like all of the regulators have been pretty much over the years. So it's kind of a takeoff on the MR12-2 from a long time ago with the extra venturi on the side. But anyhow, it's he says that they claim it breathes as almost as good as a rebreather, which is pretty remarkable when you think about it. So we have a Gil test of it today in a pool. And I'm test diving it tomorrow. Britain doesn't know it yet, but we're doing it together tomorrow afternoon at Richard Thomas's shop here in Dallas, which he was also a model for Lily and David's article. So thank you, Richard, if you're out there listening. But that's going to be a great review and an article. And it's on the innovations because it's not a commercial. It's really about just like how the S1 Blue was a game changer. This is a game changer for the regulator world. We've got a guy that's writing a name. I can't pronounce his last name, to be honest with you, but his name's Mike. But he's going to be writing an article on Florida's panhandle shipwrecks. You know, all of a sudden, we're having this collection of shipwrecks that's unparalleled on the planet. Yeah. The USS United States is being sunk on a level, not on a slope like the Arinsky was sunk, and of course got pushed out with a hurricane. So now the top deck's at 108. So it's really just at the almost beyond dive levels. But the United States is supposed to have the top deck at 50, 60 feet. It's going to be the world's largest artificial reef. Florida's putting some money, of course, behind it because they want to promote it and create a kind of a diving, industry within that area. Jeff Saransampino, our great friend, on how to discontinue our manufacture. We've got 10 tips for liveaboard divers for photo pros. We've got a great article, a guy named Richard Aspinall. A lady from Cyprus reached out to us a few months ago, and I'm so excited that her article is her journey as being a woman-owned dive resort in Cyprus for 20 years, and how she got there, and how other people can follow her path. Al Hornsby continue his incredibly insightful. If you haven't read Al's articles, they're always right after Dan's. They are a one-page wonder. Al has spent his entire life, I don't know if everybody knows, but he was the litigation executive at Patty. So he dealt with a lot of lawsuits over the years. So he's taken all that knowledge and boils it into just about 500 words of pure wisdom. And it really, truly is. Every single one of them resonates. And he talked about this last month, specifically about, it was actually an October issue, about reducing standards as needed for children. It was very unsightly, very, very fortuitous, because sadly we had an accident that that's very popular right now. So he's really spot on with everything. His article this month was about if you do not have an operations manual for your dive shop, your charter boat, or your dive resort, you better get one, because the liability is so massive if you don't have a system of standard operating procedures and so on. Jeff McNutt from Dive BVI is going to be writing a series for us on how to create your own SOPs for the dive resort. So we're looking forward to some cool stuff like that. Alex, another installment from his book series, Ocean Emotion. And the last one is going to be a fun one for me. It's called 50 Years Under Pressure. It's a look back at the dive retailing in the United States from 50 years ago, from 50 years to today. So anyhow, Greg, we almost made it to an hour. We're just shy of it.
Well, that's good. It's the holidays. We deserve a break.
Things to do. Everybody's got places to go. So everybody, I want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year's. Hope everybody has a fabulous year. We won't see everybody else on the show until after the New Year for our December issue. Right. So anybody have any?
Stay off the naughty list.
Stay off the naughty list. Give the gift of scuba, right?
Hey, does anybody want to say anything before we close out, that you have one last comment? Because we got a minute or two here if you'd like to.
Yeah. What do you think? Okay. Gil, go ahead.
Yeah. Happy Blue Year, everyone.
Happy Blue Year. Okay.
Happy Blue
There you
Year.
go. Right.
That's a really cool really cool program you got going, Gil. I look forward to seeing a report on how it worked out this year. So thanks again for everybody. Thank you for all our wonderful contributors. You guys make what the magazine is all about. It's not about me. It's all about you. So thank you.
Ho,
There
ho,
you
ho.
go. Ho, ho. Merry Christmas to all, and
Thank
to
you.
all
Merry
a good scuba dive, right?
There you go. I love that.
Right.
On that note, we'll wrap it up. I'm Greg the Dive Master. Check out Scuba Radio Saturdays 3 to 5. Till next time with the for the Level Up podcast crew. Remember, it's always better.
Always better where it's wetter.
Down where it's wetter.
Down where I always want to get it right. 20.
This has been Level Up, the podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Produced by Scuba Radio and the Klein Group. For more info, go to ScubaDivingIndustry.com.